Welcome back. So we all know what happened last time. So as you can see here, I've disassembled the upper drive unit again, and I've taken the back cover off, and I've actually got the hook back up to the prop there so it can be sealed, and I've got the air line hooked up to it, and just to see if I can figure out where the leak is coming from. And here I'm just spraying a bit of soapy water in there around where the seal is. And this one on this side, the back seal, wasn't leaking at all, but I could hear air coming from the other side. So I suspected that the front seal had been damaged. Maybe when I had to pull the shaft out the one time, it might have caught on those teeth there. So anyway, my technique going forward is to tape all that up with some electrical tape, so when anything runs by there, it doesn't have a chance to nick it, because as you can see, there's some sharp edges there where that little notch is in the thread, and there's another one on the other side. Anyway, so still investigating that, and you'll see more on that in a minute. But the next thing I wanted to do was I hit up Britt to ask him if he could knock off the sharp edge that was on the step there, just after where the thread ends, and then going into the center of the shaft. So he was kind enough to invite me up to his place, and as you can see, we put the shaft up on his lathe there, and he carefully just put a nice chamfer on that step there. So the step was maybe about, I don't know, 70-80 thou tall, maybe a little bit more, and he basically put about a 30-degree angle on it, or 60 degrees, just a flat angle on it basically, so when the seal goes on there, it doesn't catch on there and want to sort of bend it or twist it at all. And as you can see, as always when I'm dealing with Britt, he's done a nice job there. And that's about halfway through where he's just taking it down there, and this is what it looks like at the end there. So the step is like completely gone there. Just above where the seal is on there is where the step is there. And you can see it's very, I'm trying to get the camera there so you can see on the side profile, but there about ½ an inch up from where the seal is there, you can see it sort of steps down there nicely, instead of having just a regular step there. So that solved that problem. And so the next thing I had to do, I had to pull the main front oil seal out there. So I jigged up this little thing to be able to do that, and with our little puller, and got that sorted out and pulled that out. And meanwhile, Zach and Devon were busy creating the bracing for this upper elevator skin mold. As you can see, they've cut their foam on that and basically glassed it into place. And here they're working on prepping these molds there that were finished now, just waxing those so they can be ready to lay up those parts there. Those are the ribs again for the winglets and the rudders. And here's Jeff just beginning the layups of these backside pieces that go around the door locks on the first of the doors. So as you can see, just puts there a couple of plies over each of those door locks and over the foam there, and bonds that into place. So then the locks have a nice little sort of home to live in that's going to be rigid on both sides. And this is that same door all done there with some peel ply on there, so that just ready to set up and cure now, and then you can trim all that back and make it look all pretty. So back on the redrive, I'm anticipating that we're going to have another leak through the seals at some point, and this time I don't want it to be a big mess, so decided to put a drain hole in the back cover there, and just drill a hole there and tap that out and put a fitting in there with a line on there, so just an AN fitting, and decided to use an AN3 line on there that I can actually capture any oil that leaks out of there, and then figure out exactly what the next plan is going to be going forward, instead of just having it blow out that main seal there at the back that you can see. So that's another job done there. There's the little drain hole there for it. And the guys are pushing forward with creating the first of the molds for the lower skin there for the elevator. So there'll be a left and a right pulled off this same plug. So this is the first one underway there with the top coat, and they're also ambitious and decided to also do the finish, or a couple more of these rib molds that were remaining, and I think they actually had them all done now. So this is the last round there, getting the top coat laid down, and there was a couple more on one other board that needed to be done, but anyway, they decided they were going to do it all in one day there. And here's that door all cleaned up now, or mostly cleaned up. As you can see, Jeff sort of cleaned up around the edges and just sort of sanded it all back, so we've got a nice flange there for the skin to be bonded to. But at the same time, you know, each of those locks has a nice place to live now, and there'll be a backing plate on there with nut plates in there to be able to fasten the locks in place so they don't just fall out. So on the redrive, I replaced the front seal again, and actually decided to replace the back seal as well, just to be absolutely sure, and I was super duper careful doing that to make sure I didn't sort of nick or damage either of those seals. And here you can see you've got the housing all back in place on the stand now, and there's the drain line coming out there, the fitting sort of up there. You can trying to get the camera angle under there, but there's basically the fitting, and the drain line comes back there. And I've just got it, you know, quite a long piece of line there, just running downhill all the way, and I just got it running into one of our little plastic buckets there with a lid there through a hole in the lid, just so we can monitor and see if anything comes out there, and then we'll figure out what the game plan is if it does leak. And the guy's got the top coat on that first one that I showed you. This is again the first of the underside molds for the elevator. So they got the lightweight glass on that, and here you can see they're just finishing off getting the lightweight glass on these other 5 ribs here. And I believe there was, as I said before, there was another table there sitting somewhere in the background there that had a couple more on it, and they got done as well. And here's Jeff releasing the mold now for the upper skin for the elevators that was done and completed there just the day before with the bracing on it. And as you can see, it's just first time off the mold and looks really good. So I'll have a bit of a closer look at that here now. And I mean, these guys are old hand at this now, so they all come out looking super nice. And you remember last time that Jeff was busy drilling out the holes for the hinge pins there, and so he finished doing those. The front ones were the last ones that needed to be done. So we got those done on this side, and then that door's in with the pins in place now. So here's Jeff just showing you. It's still a little bit shaky there because it doesn't have the outside skin or the window or anything to sort of make it more rigid, but once that's all on, it'll be nice and solid. And that's the actual height it will be off the ground, because obviously the aircraft's standing on the gear now, so it's pretty much 6 foot clearance plus under there. And this is the one on the other side, which is also done now, and it goes up just a little bit higher than what Devon was holding it there. And moment of truth on the engine. So this is still Thursday now, and just to cut to the chase, I ran the engine for a while, let it warm up, and then slowly started bringing the power up, and everything was looking really good until we got to about 2650 RPMs, and then I started to notice a little bit of oil coming out. So obviously something wasn't right with the seals there, and I was pretty sure that I hadn't damaged them. So Friday I pulled it all down again, and I was so busy doing that I didn't get any video of it, so what you're looking at is still a leftover video from Thursday. But basically the seals were in perfect condition when I pulled it apart, and so what my thinking is, there's another pathway which leads sort of around this internal housing to these O-rings, and it's possible that one of those O-rings got damaged when I first assembled that whole housing way back when. It might have got sort of a little bit of a nick when it went past the opening where the oil gets fed in. It's really difficult for us to sort of remove that right now, so the best thing, and it's not even being used, that whole pathway through to where the O-rings are, so what I decided to do was just basically block it off where the oil runs through to that with some JB weld, and also using another O-ring. And this way there's only one pathway for the oil to run, and it has to run past those seals, and we know those seals can hold pressure to 150 psi because I tested that with the air and it worked fine. And it actually worked with the governor for quite a while until the engine warmed up, or the drive warmed up. So the other thing that I've done is I've loosened off the main nut, which puts pressure on the bearing, so when the housing, the aluminum housing, gets warm and it expands, the bearings get tighter, and then they get more friction, and then they get hot. So I've loosened that a little bit more to allow a little bit more room for expansion. So hopefully the combination of these different things is going to mean that we won't end up having a leak. but we're all going to have to wait till next week now to find out, because I need that time to get set up again on Monday and fill everything up with oil again and get it pressure tested with the air first. So thanks again for watching, and tune in next week for the results.